Holy moly, Capcom, what in blazing crimson fatalis is this? Look at all of this. The fact that there's this many screenshots of the open beta as a PS1 port is... it's no good. Like this?
Hello?
Look at this. I didn't even know who or what the hell I was looking at until I had a good look at it. I had to look at the background. I had to look at the surrounding background, the shape, the color, and then finally formulate and deduce that this is Chatacabra in his introduction scene. This is not okay, Capcom. What the hell is all of this? And the fact that this is a bug, which means no matter what settings you have, you can encounter this problem anywhere. And just that alone is actually pretty funny in its own right, because, you know, fighting polygons is the good old-fashioned way. Look. I get it. It's the open beta, so maybe this is exactly what they wanted to see, wanted to test out, but even then this shouldn't give them an excuse to not optimize the PC port, because of all things, I don't think people should be fighting polygons at 15 to 30 frames per second. That is just unreasonable. But to give them some slouch, this is seeming to be a very graphical game, so if you do have a PC at the lower end side of things, this is kind of to be expected, but just not at this level.
Holy Jesus.
Plus, this probably is an earlier build of the game, so, you know, to give them some benefit of the doubt, right?
¿Quieres?
Yeah, let me get some of that. But please, Capcom, before you do anything, please make sure this doesn't happen on the full release of the game. I'd hate to see the potential newcomers wanting to give Wilds a shot and being absolutely torn apart because of the PC customization. And I'm sure as hell you wouldn't want the same thing too. So, you know what you should do for the PC port? Prioritize the optimization, right?
It would be so awesome. It would be so cool.
So what better way to start than with the character creation, to which I think most of us can agree this is the best character creation Monster Hunter has done so far. I mean, just look at what the community has done. Look at all of this, look at all of this. Do you really need me to say any more? The absolute greatness they've done with the character creation easily outshines any of the previously established character creations out there, especially with the amount of options given to us this time around. It's easy to see why so many people love it, especially since you can be ridiculous or specific on your choice of appearance. And I'm not stroking this character creation to be the best one out there, especially when you compare it to other games, but it's definitely Monster Hunter's best character creation, so definitely gonna give props to it. The only reason I can see anyone disliking this character creation is simply because they don't like the art direction in Wilds, which in its own right is fair, but that's not something that has to do with the character creation, more so the art style and art direction of Wilds. All in all, I would say they've done a spectacular job on this part, which is good. I am a huge advocate for expression through customization, so Capcom, you get a from me. Moving from the character creation onto the story trial, it's easily looking to be one of the best narratives Monster Hunter has given us so far, and while we only get a taste of the story's earlier stages, the pacing and cutscene direction gives me so much hope that this game's narrative is truly gonna be the best in the series. And yeah, I know, bold claim, but I kinda love the approach they're taking with the Hunter this time around, especially since, I don't know, instead of us being this anonymous figure that barely speaks and only moves to where we're pointed to, we are finally given our own voice/dialogue, which may not seem like a lot to many, but it gives more integrity and weight to the narrative at hand, at least in my opinion, especially since we finally feel a part of this world instead of just being this background character, this force of nature, which isn't a bad thing, but you know, let's have some soul into it. And given the fact that we not only speak in cutscenes, but also the gameplay sections of the story trial, only enhances this part more. Plus, I love the idea that our hunter isn't just this soulless killing machine that only does it for the thrill, which I know some of you love that. I like the fact that we hunt to save people and help others in need. And yes, I'm aware that most of the times in the quest description, that's what we do. It's just nice to finally see it in play, you know, in the story and narrative. So, good job there, Capcom, again. Nice. And on to the meat itself, the gameplay. Which, I'm gonna be frank, I absolutely love the pacing in Wilds. I feel like it's a great mixture between Rise and World's combat pacing, which to a lot of people may put them off and a lot of people may attract them, but I kinda love it. It's like some weapons feel just as fast as Rise and others feel just as slow as Worlds, while still looking smooth and grounded to begin with. And a good amount of weapons just feel new, and I absolutely love that. It's to the point where I feel like I really need to go back to the combo guide and deeply look into some weapons. Especially since I main the hammer and sword and shield, and while one is really not that complex and the other one is fairly to master, I do love the consistency that both of them have. The hammer getting, I don't know, holds on golf swings, the mighty charges, the whirlwind of death after anything, it's just mwah. And as for the sword and shield, it really just gets more things added to it, like the diagonal slashes paired with the strafing options, the counterattack after a guard, the sliding mobility, the stabby attack, and the list goes on and on and on, especially for the gun lance when you can just pair it up with the shelling options, with the insane sidestep mobility, and like essentially an endless loop, especially if you know how to reload properly. The versatility of the switch axe has been insanely amped up, and paired up with the offset attacks that come with it, it really just makes it more rewarding if you're able to even pull them off. The long blade, you fucking know about the long blade. And the great sword is kind of doing great sword things. I'm not a big fan that the charge blade has to go through steps for the big gamma slam, but like, you know, it's not something that I feel like took away from the charge blade. Either way, when it comes to the weapons and pacing of Wilds, it truly feels amazing. My only concern when it comes to the gameplay is the wound mechanic. Oftentimes I feel it's an easy out mechanic that lets you get out of any sticky situation, especially if you know what you're doing. And while some weapons may take longer than others to inflict the wounds, I feel like popping them shouldn't stagger the monster all the time. Plus, the amount of damage they do is insane, and I know this is an open beta, and I know numbers and values can be tweaked later on, but let's just hope we don't have a clutch claw dilemma again, Capcom. Please, I am begging you. And finally, the monsters. Let me just start off by saying I absolutely adore and love Doshaguma. It's truly one of the best starter monsters we've had in a while, and I know, my opinion, but this meaty boy really has a good pacing to him, especially for a starter monster. He feels extremely threatening at first, especially when the alpha is with the other ones, but you know, after you dunk pop the rest and actually get to hunt him, it feels so rewarding once you learn his attacks. And I'm not gonna sit here and glaze over his moveset like it's anything big, but one of the best hurdles while playing the open beta to me was getting used to the combat and pacing of the game, the fundamentals, and he just makes it feel so compelling when you learn the foundations of the game and his moveset and just conquer it all together. And even then, he has one or two moves that can catch you off guard, you know, like the lunges and his ground slams, but it's never something that feels like it's cheating. Regardless, he just feels so welcoming and right for the introduction of Monster Hunter Wilds, which, if we look into the other monsters, look, I love me Chatacabra's design and everything, but he definitely feels like a pushover, which I'm not gonna give him too much slack for. He is the absolute first monster we face, so it'd kind of be insane to think he should pose too much of a challenge at the start. But overall, I do think he does his job good, you know, for being a punching bag to newcomers while also having a strong nudge back. I think he does do it great. Balahara, on the other hand, is definitely the weird mix out of the two. He can definitely have his moment of being challenging and difficult, especially with his environmental interaction, but at the same time he can be just as much of a punching bag because of his Leviathan body. Having a long hitbox works both in your favor and against you, so overall I think Balahara is a good in-between, you know, Chatacabra and Doshaguma. And lastly, Ray Dow. What can I really say? This monster is just so fucking good. Its fight is great, its music is great, its sound design is immaculate. Honestly, my only gripe with this monster is that I wish he had more moves, because like once you crack the code to his aerial assault, it really just turns into a matter of dodging at the right time. And although it doesn't take away from his difficulty, especially if you decide to play him in multiplayer, I feel like his lack of move versatility is definitely holding him back. Either way, I think Ray Dow is easily one of the better hunts in the open beta for obvious reasons. I just really hope he has more moves in the actual game, because that's the only part of the fight I have a problem with. But that about wraps it up. Aside from the poor PC reception many hunters have received, I think this open beta went pretty smooth, all things considered. We managed to get a nice feel for Wild's combat, a glimpse of the narrative direction it's taking, and we all got to test our favorite weapons. Hopefully we do receive a demo around December with a proper optimization, Capcom, and by then we can see how it truly goes. I hope with the stress testing they did with this open beta, they take the feedback and come back with a better build than before, but maybe that's just wishful thinking. Overall, I think I captured most of my thoughts and experience with the open beta, so if you did enjoy the video, yada yada. But aside from that, this video is meant to be brief and short. Like I said on my previous video, the next Monster Hunter video is gonna be a doozy, so get ready for that. And as always, I love and appreciate all your comments. I love the support, yada yada yada. The milk stuff and all that. Bye bye.